Welcome to Ingredient Insiders. I'm John Magazzino.
And I'm Andrea Parkins.
Thanks for watching this clip of our interview with author Ed Levine.
For the full episode, find us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Links in the description below. How did Serious Eats begin?
It began actually out of the ashes of I regard it as a career disaster. I was developing a cable television network centered around food to compete with the Food Network. I was developing it for my friends at MTV Networks. I'd done a lot of consulting. Mm-hmm. John doesn't even probably know this, but I did a lot of media consulting for every cable network you can name. Huh. But
cool.
Anyway,
did not know that.
So they brought me in. They were like, okay, we want to develop these lifestyle networks. Mm-hmm. So I developed one that I called Gusto, and I put the arm on all my friends. So I got to make this amazing sales tape with like Frances McDormand and Pete Wells and Gabrielle Hamilton having a dinner party. And it looked like it was going to go, and it was even in the Wall Street Journal, and I was like counting my money and my blessings. And then, of course, it didn't happen. They lost the cable partner they needed, the MSO, the multiple system operator, like Time Warner, or I don't think they're out of the cable business like everybody wants to be.
Sure.
But anyway, but I had, in doing my research for that, I discovered the world of online media, which was then in its infancy. Mm-hmm. And so and once I saw that there were food blogs, my old boss at this company I used to work for said, "Oh, you don't need MTV Networks." Of course, they were going to invest like hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
Yeah, now with the internet,
I
you
don't
can do it. Yeah. And so I started Ed Levine Eats just as a way that I could write about what I wanted to without dealing with gatekeepers. Because the worst thing a creative person has to deal with is like, before the internet, it was like, well, I need a company to make a record. I need a company to publish an article that anyone would see. Yep. All that has been destroyed by the creator economy. But you have to remember, at the time, I was like, that was part of the reason I wrote my memoir. It's like there was this fever for online media, right? And food blogs and blogs in general. Mm-hmm. And so I decided, okay, what if I, instead of launching Gusto as a cable network, I launched it as a blog, and then it became a website. And then it just took on a life of its own. This was like 2005, when all the great initial digital creators were at a place where they wanted to help people. It wasn't a Darwinian struggle. Mm-hmm. It was like, oh, you're doing cool stuff. Even Nick Denton, who started Gawker, like he had breakfast with me. He was the one who said, well, you're not doing any recipes. And I said, well, I don't know if the world needs another recipe database. And he goes, how many recipe searches are there a day, Ed? And at the time, it was like 30 million. So it's like, he said, if I were you, I'd find a way to do recipes Serious Eats style. And so that's how it started. Yeah. And I found Kenji, who was doing burger reviews. And then it became a recipe-driven website and a technique-driven website. Everything on Serious Eats, I used to tell everybody on the staff, it's like, it has to be passionate, discerning, and inclusive. Mm-hmm. I don't care how deep a rabbit hole you want to go down. I'm okay. Kenji, you want to write 10,000 words on chocolate chip cookies? I'm down with that. The internet made that possible.
Sure.
Yep.
Right? And so that's how it began. And I had no idea what I was getting in for. My first chief technology officer was David Karp, who started Tumblr. Mm-hmm. And actually, what he will never admit, although I think he has, is that Tumblr was developed to be Serious Eats content management system.
Interesting.
Huh.
And then we got tired of waiting because he was a classic coder. He was like 17 years old. He was a genius. Mm-hmm. He dropped out of high school to code, which, wasn't unheard of back then.
Sure.
Right? And so, but then I couldn't wait any longer, and I had hired this woman, Meg Hourahan, who'd been Evan Williams' partner at Blogger. They were the first blogging software. They sold it to Google. Then Evan Williams, of course, went on to co-found Twitter, and now Medium. I think he still owns.
Yeah.
But anyway,
he did okay.
Yeah, he did fine. And anyway, Meg was just like, you have an advertiser that is launching with you. And it's true, I had American Express through some miracle. And so they said that you can't wait for David any longer. So I used off-the-shelf software, blogging software called Movable Type, which now I don't even know if it exists anymore. Everyone, uses...
Substack?
No, Substack is
That's
actually
different.
started as a newsletter. It's becoming many things.
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of chefs start to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's what started the adventure.
Yeah.
And there were so many crazy things that happened, and I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I was on a mission. You
created something amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I still trust it for recipes if I'm looking something up.
And it's great. And I sold it in 2015 at a time, I think I might have been the last single subject blog turned website that was sold for a reasonable amount of money. Because if you remember, once Facebook and Google entered, and Amazon to a lesser extent, nobody's selling a blog right now.
Yeah.
Nobody's selling a blog.
Yeah, definitely early 2000.
Yeah. So I sold it in 2015, and then I ran it for the new owners. Then they sold it to one of Barry Diller's companies, and we parted ways. But I love that I did that.
Yeah.
I'm incredibly proud that it's part of my legacy.
You should be.
And I'm so happy to see all these people killing it who started at Serious Eats.
Yeah, that's so great.
When did you start the podcast?
I started the podcast in 2015. Believe it.
So right
the
after.
Special sauce. We got to come on someday.
Yes, we would love
we're
that.
inviting ourselves on.
But so there's probably 300 episodes, and when I agreed to part ways with Diller's company, they gave me the podcast back and the whole library.
Okay.
Which was a couple of hundred episodes by this point, because I was doing them every week. And then a woman, this amazing producer who teaches podcasting at NYU, Jocelyn Gonzalez, who produced my radio show at WNYC, which was called Dish.
I remember that.
And she's now the head of production at PRX. So she was like, hey, my boss wants to meet you. And so I've been doing it, and they're amazing. I've been doing it with them for a couple of years. So
Nice.
All right, we're closing in on 100 episodes.
Yeah.
that's
We're
good.
This
catching up.
season is 100
We're catching up.
episodes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well-
podcasting is fun. I wouldn't say it's remunerative for food podcasts.
Yeah, we got our day jobs, This
Yeah,
is pretty
this is like the fun part of our.
You know what's fun, actually? So we had listeners, when they heard that Ed was coming on Instagram, sent questions in
I have
to
10
ask
questions
Ed.
for you.
10
All right.
questions for Ed.
I can do it.
They're fun.
Do you want to should I go first?
I mean, yeah, you go first.
All right. So one of our Instagram-ers wants to know what your favorite food city is.
It's an interesting question, because I just got back from LA.
Okay.
And I think I find myself impossibly torn
Okay.
between New York and LA. What LA has that New York doesn't, first of all, it's a horizontal city that's welcomed so many different people from Asia, every part of Asia.
Yes.
So you can go, Koreatown in New York, K-Town is what, 2 square
blocks?
blocks?
Yeah.
In Los Angeles, there are almost 350,000 Korean
It's a
Americans.
town, right? It's a true
Yeah.
It's a
K-town.
city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a Korean American city in America. And it's fantastic. So, and there's Thai food, and then you can go to the San Gabriel Valley and get food from every province of China.
Yeah.
I love this answer.
Yep.
And I think
It's your answer.
And I don't
It's
know.
exactly
Yes,
what I say.
you can do a lot of that in Flushing.
Yeah.
But I don't think Flushing is like the San Gabriel Valley.
LA
Yeah.
has depth with that
Yes, it has
ethnic
depth.
food.
I agree with you 100%.
And breadth, by the way.
Yeah.
It has depth and breadth.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Ingredient Insiders.
You can find the products we discussed on today's episode at chefswarehouse.com or your favorite specialty retailer.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Ingredient Insiders and Chef's Warehouse at Where Chefs Shop.